I'm a little nervous. Hello, everyone. People have always asked me how I managed to become a famous chef, a woman chef, when 95% of the chefs are men. As a matter of fact, sometimes it happens, it still happens, that they ask, can you call the chef because we want to congratulate. Whenever they tell me that they didn't eat well, I don't go to the table. But whenever they ask to call the chef and I go there, well, sometimes they look at me and say, oh, you're a woman. It actually happens more in the bigger restaurant. I have 2 restaurants. And one is smaller, it's the upscale, so people actually go there knowing to find me. But the other one, it's a much bigger restaurant. So there's always also almost the belief that a woman cannot be a chef and manage a bigger restaurant. I come from the South, and I always ask myself since I was a kid if I wanted to live by the set of rules actually decided by society. I come from the south of Italy, by the way, if you didn't realize that by my accent. And so as a kid and as a woman, probably the only thing that people would expect you to be is to grow up, get married, have a couple of kids, and eventually, find a job. If you belong, like I did, from an upper middle class, probably they expect you to be a professional. So that's how I ended up going from foreign languages high school to actually law. I graduated in law. I worked for a couple of years in a law firm, a very famous law firm in my city, until one day I decided that I wanted to take a big trip, and I went to the United States. Well, I discovered there that there was a completely different set of rules. People thought differently, people walked differently, people, did everything differently. And it was almost like a revelation. It's like, oh, wow, there's another side of the world that actually live well with a completely different set of rules. And that's when I decided, I took a big step and I said, I am going to move. I want to learn anything that's to learn in the United States. And that was actually one of the first of the other countries that I wanted to visit, then I actually never ended up doing that. I stayed in the States for 16 years. I worked as a graphic designer because, you see, I was not the artist of the family. My mom was the artist, my sister is an architect, so I was not the artist. Well, while there, living by myself, I actually found out that I had a creative part of myself. And I went through 10 years of graphic design. I loved cooking, and I finally decided that probably the best means to express my creativity was food. And I ended up enrolling and graduating in culinary arts. So basically, the thought was that I really I could become what I wanted to. My mother especially, but in reality my family, really taught me that I could be whoever I wanted. My mom used to say all the time, common phrase, if you can dream of it, you can be. And that's exactly what happened to me. Being a girl from the South, I have many Me Too stories, like anybody else, like any other woman, probably in every single part of the world. But what I wanted to do in reality is underline, stress, the speaking out. Many women right now are speaking out. Speak out is a verb that I love. Because a lot of people, especially women, have a problem in speaking out. They actually they assume that the person right in front of us understands and knows exactly what we are going to say. No, that's not true. I am going to say exactly what I wanted to. So basically, I wanted to inspire. I wanted to become somebody I was the leader of the pack since I was a kid. So I wanted to do something that people would remember, get inspired by. And I started thinking that if I wanted to be listened, I had to be successful in the field where I operated. I defined myself, since I think I was probably 16 years old, a terrorist from within. So I wanted to be successful in the field where I operated as a graphic designer first and then as a chef so that I could change the rules. I put together at one point, they asked me, hey, you want to do a recipe book? We want to do like great porn food pictures. I'm like, I'm not interested in a porn food pictures book. There are like many people that do like major job and great food and wonderful. I wanted to communicate something. And what I wanted to communicate is my set of rules. Because you see, if there are certain rules that inspired me and that helped me to get where I am right now, most likely there will be one girl, probably the one that walks through the door of my restaurant, shy, doubtful of herself, not really self-confident, that might get inspired and say, hey, if she did it, I can do it. So I put together this book with 10 rules. Do not worry, I am not going to list 10 rules because otherwise it would get really boring. So I picked 4, and being a chef, this is my world. This is how I really try to push things through all these principles. And as a chef, of course, I used food to actually define what my rules are. So the first one is to find the strength to be different. As you can see, I got no problem in doing that. But this was conceived in 2006. Consider that my restaurant is a very modern restaurant with a modern contaminated cuisine. That's how I define my cuisine. In the most traditional place in Rome. It's in Trastevere, which means across the Tiber, which means basically you are surrounded by trattoria, traditional food, cacio e pepe, carbonara, for whoever knows anything about Italian cuisine, but that's it. That's all you find. Well, in 2006, in this restaurant that had ambitions, wanted to get a Michelin star, wanted to do high-end food, I came up with this panino. We're talking about 2006 in Italy. Nobody has ever imagined, thought, conceived to serve a panino, because people, like my partner, looked at me and said, why would anybody pay to come over here and we let them eat with their hands? I'm like, well, because I want to shorten the distance between high-end cuisine and whoever eats my food. So I did, I like a high-end panino. It's a licorice panino with a foie gras escalope, a fake mango ketchup, a pasito mayo, and in reality there are chips, but I used to do rice chips. So you basically had like a hamburger. And in the beginning when I put it on the menu, people literally, they looked at me and they said, it's never gonna be successful. I can guarantee you not only was the most successful dish I've ever done, it was actually my breakthrough, because I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to take high-end cuisine and propose it at street level, which I went all the way down. Now I got food trucks, for instance. So not lower the quality, but just propose it in a different way. So that's what I did. This is my first breakthrough with my food. The second one, I like traveling, and I always think that food is culture. You can literally do a lot of things. You can transmit the culture of a population through food in a certain period of time. So I decided that I wanted to reunite my two cultures, my two souls, my American soul with my Italian soul. So I went to the States. I went to New York. I was lucky enough, I had friends, so I actually staged at Katz's, I staged at Rubb's, and I staged at Dickinson Farm to learn how to make pastrami. So I went back home. In Rome, there's the so-called ghetto. It's basically the Jewish quarter, and they have pastrami, but the regular pastrami made with beef brisket. Well, I took the offal part. Offal is very popular in Roman tradition, so a veal tongue. And I made a pastrami out of veal tongue, and I served it in a very elegant way, with actually a mustard, ice cream, pickled vegetables by us. It was a real success. Then I took it and I made it into a panino. And that in 2013 gave me like the best panino award in Italy, because I loved it. It's like high-end food made with traditional ingredients and brought it at street level. Loved it. Then this one, well, it's never going to happen. I'm never going to make a dish that is this beautiful. This is it. It was in 2014, I think. I fell in love with what fell in love, I actually was really concerned about the bee problem, the CCD, the colony collapse disorder that affected all bees all around the world. So I decided to bring the issue to the panel to Identità Golosa, which is the most important convention in Italy, which actually has an international crowd. So I brought it up. And I came up with this dish. I actually cooked the honeycomb tripe in a pressure cooker, another breakthrough because people, always assume pressure cooker, home cooking. In reality, it's not true at all. A pressure cooker can really help us out in a lot of situations. And wanted, again, to kind of like shorten the distance between high-end cuisine and regular cooking, street food cooking. So the tripe was cooked in a pressure cooker, and this was inspired to the menudo soup. For anybody who is Mexican affiliated or loves Mexican food, they know what I'm talking about. It's basically chili peppers, it's lime, and it's tripe. And the Texan version, where I lived in Texas for 9 years, they put potato, which is under. And there was a broth made with fermented honey, so mead. I brought up the issue of the bees, not only inspiring myself through the shape, so that was the graphic designer in me, but plus with internationality and the fermented food. Because fermented food has been one of the things that I really got inspired by. A very simple ingredient can really become something else, can really reach its potential, the maximum its potential through fermentation and with our job. Respect yourself and the world we live in. That was a principle that I got inspired for this dish. And finally, gnocchetti in assoluti in consommé. What does it mean? This is the Puglia. I'm from Puglia. I'm from the south of Italy. But I wanted to concentrate flavors, and I wanted to demonstrate that even though you have always the same ingredients around, there's no need to go and look for something that people don't even know how to pronounce, myself included. And I wanted to demonstrate that you can never, ever, and you should never, ever stop learning. So these are like absolute gnocchi. It's 100% broccoli rabe, which have been sauteed with anchovies, exactly like we do it in Puglia. And then the broth, it's only 2 ingredients. The broth is actually consommé, a distilled consommé, with leftovers Grana Padano. So it's eco-sustainable, or it is inspired to, it aims to be eco-sustainable. These are 2 ingredients. Consider that pretty much every single plate dish on earth is done with at least 3 ingredients. But I wanted to concentrate flavors, make it simple enough. But simple doesn't mean simplified things. Simple means that people can understand. Because you see, I always think that cooking is something that needs to interact with whoever is eating it. Because otherwise it becomes like a still painting that nobody can understand. I want always a relationship between whatever is eating and the person who is eating it. At the end of the day, I traveled a lot, I work a lot. People say that I sleep 4 hours a night. That's not true, about 4.5. But I love what I do, and it's the passion. That's my legacy. At the end of the day, I think that being successful as a professional in the kitchen is as hard as for any other woman to be successful in any professional field, because I consider my field a professional field. But I demonstrated that we are capable to do so. So my legacy, what is it that I want to transmit? What is it that I want to leave to the people I work with? I am so picky in choosing the people I work with, because they have to be inspired. If I see somebody that is not passionate about what they do, and I can guarantee you, right at this second, there are none. As a matter of fact, I have to tell them, you cannot go to the restaurant before 12 o'clock. Otherwise, they will be there at 10 o'clock in the morning. And we only work at night. Our service is 7:30. So they are all passionate. But really, what I want to transmit, my legacy, is the way I treat people. My goal is to find, especially women, that sparkle and understand how to develop that sparkle up to the point that that little girl that I was telling you in the beginning, the one that came through my door and said, maybe I started too late. Oh, sweetie, how old are you? 19. I'm like, no, I changed career, 32, so you got plenty of time. I want that girl to actually become the best, like a fermented food, the best of what she can be. That is my legacy. That is what I'm going for it. I really thank you.